I didn't know him, right? I didn't know him.
Yeah,
I didn't know him.
I'm looking around. I see Jim Bonner is here. Do you remember
Yeah, Jim Bonner.
He was I did my internship with him.
There's Leanne. Leanne.
Jim was-
Is Bob here? Bob Stokes?
Yeah, Bob's here.
Is he?
Yeah. I didn't see
Son
him.
of a gun,
He is
where
here.
is he?
I don't know, but he is here.
All right. You know what?
Good evening. We are going to begin in about 5 minutes. If you could please find a seat. About 5 minutes, we'll get started. So if you could please find a seat. Good evening, friends and family. We're going to get started. We know traffic's a little rough out there and parking, so people, I'm sure, will continue to join us. But my name is Mike Catrillo. I am the Stroudsburg School Board President, former English teacher here at South, and retired principal of this great high school. This afternoon, we gather to honor the memory of our coach and our friend, Ed Christian, and take time to highlight his inspiration an everlasting mark on us and our community. Tonight, you will hear stories from former players, fellow coaches, family, and friends. We have people from all over the country, from California to Indiana to South Dakota to right here in Monroe County. A legend such as Ed leaves his impression on many people. To begin, though, our celebration tonight, I'd ask you to please stand as we sing our national anthem and alma mater. Please welcome Nicole Rideout as she leads us in song.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Sons and daughters of East Stroudsburg, with songs and cheers draw nigh, to praise our alma mater, our glorious Eastburg High. No school excels East Stroudsburg, we glory in her might, proud of these her colors, the purple and the white, and raise aloft that standard, and let its colors gleam. There's victory in those shining folds, and glory in its beam. For our dear alma mater will battle for the right. True to these our colors, the purple and the white.
Please be seated. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Rachel Miola, for our music department here. Before we begin, and we have many, many speakers to share, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the first time that I met Ed. I had just joined the English department here, coming from New Jersey, and that I was told that I was going to share a classroom with the football coach. Now, if you don't know me, where I came from, I was the debate coach, the theater coach, and I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get along, and he's going to get along with me as the football coach and debate coach in the same classroom. But anyway, excited, I came in to decorate and set up my room and get it just right for all my seniors. And I do remember there was a plot that I didn't know about, but one by one, my fellow English teachers came down to warn me that I better not decorate too much, because Ed likes to decorate. If I wasn't anxious enough sharing this room with the coach, I struggled to decide just what should I do and what shouldn't I do. Their warnings went on all day. As I put something up, kind of get a nod going, I don't know if Ed's going to want that up there. He likes to do things himself. Well, finally I heard this loud male voice in the hallway, and I knew the moment of reckoning had come. So Ed came up from practice, and nervously I introduced myself and stated very clearly that I left most of the room untouched so he could do what he wants. I even made him a football bulletin board. He said, good. He smiled a devilish grin. He went to the back closet, pulled out a very old, beat-up portrait of a house on a hill, a fairly ugly portrait, I might add, went to the back, stuck it on an old nail that was hanging, turned around with a big grin, and laughingly said, I'm done. Soon, he was joined by the rest of the department who had just gotten the new guy. It was a great year sharing a classroom with Ed. I got to see Ed in a little bit different light than a lot of people. Sure, I saw him down on the field, and I went to the football games, but I got to see him in the classroom every day. I watched him interact with his students. I watched him, as I told the people down at the sign unveiling, I watched him teach Macbeth, and he was really good at it. Yes, the dynamic football coach really knew his Shakespeare. I went on in later years to be Ed's principal, and I always enjoyed going in his room to watch him teach American Lit, because he showed care and kindness to everyone in that classroom. Didn't matter if you were a football player, that wasn't the important thing. The important thing that you were another human being, and he showed you kindness and compassion. So we want to honor Ed the coach, but I don't want anybody to ever forget Ed the English teacher also. So let's start out our program tonight by introducing our current PA State representative and former student of the coach, Tara Probst.
Good evening, Cavaliers. I am so excited to be here tonight, and I just want to say, being in this gym, seeing Coach Brown and Coach Lavador and our Centennial League champs up there just brings a big smile to my face. And I think that being in this gym makes me think about all the people that went here before me and that are going here today, up to today, and to find out what Mr. Christian really meant to each and every one of us. So I want to thank East Stroudsburg Area School District for allowing me to briefly speak at tonight's ceremonies. I'm very sentimental when it comes to the experiences with this school district. I loved it. I was a Cavalier through and through. My school pride, our school pride, was second to none. I remember crying when we would lose to the Mounties, and now my son is a Mountie, so I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, Mr. Christian was my English teacher, and he went to King's College, and he explained that King's College was an all-boys school. And I had gotten accepted into King's College, and I said, well, it's no longer an all-boys school, which he knew. But at the time, being an athlete, they didn't have field hockey. They didn't have the sports that I played, except they did have basketball. And just what he told me about Wilkes-Barre and how much he loved it there and all the great things, I have to tell you, I spent 22 years of my life in Wilkes-Barre. So born and raised in East Stroudsburg, Mr. Christian and I would talk all the time about the school that I was going to, and he was very happy that I went there. I do want to say that I have 3 older brothers who also graduated from this fine school, one in 1978, one in 1983, and one in 1984, and they also had Mr. Christian. We all loved him. He was a football coach, legend, an exceptional teacher, an exceptional man, and as I grew older, his Facebook support of me, which, I need my Facebook with what I do, he was always very supportive in all my political endeavors, and it just meant so much to me. He had a large stature with a heart of gold and just a terrific person. And the last time I saw Mr. Christian, he was at his grandson's Little League game, and his grandson was playing against my son at the time. It was a long time ago. So that was many years ago, but I made sure I told him how much I appreciated him and how he impacted my life in more ways than he ever knew. He will always be Mr. Christian to me, just like it's Mr. Rose and Mr. Carty. I just can't call you by your first name. I'm so sorry. Even though I'm going to be 53 tomorrow, I can't do it. But anyway, I just want to say that Mr. Christian, you'll never be forgotten. And now generations of high school football players and fans will know your name forever. And congratulations, my friend, you deserve to be on that stadium wall. So thank you for having me tonight. I am a proud graduate of 1988 East Stroudsburg High School and a proud Cavalier. Thank you.
Next up is a pretty living testimony to Coach's influence. He was a player for Ed, a volunteer coach, and now the head coach of the Cavalier football team. A young man that, when appointed as coach, was the youngest coach in the state of Pennsylvania. He is a dynamic leader and an inspiration to the team. Also, you may not know, he's a great password player, having recently gone all the way and won $25,000 on NBC's Password. Please welcome Matt Walters.
Good evening, everyone. Today, we come together as a community in East Stroudsburg to honor a man whose impact reaches far beyond the football field. We are here to dedicate this stadium to someone who is not only a coach, but also my mentor, a leader, and a true pillar of our town, Coach Christian. For many of us, Coach Christian was the heart and soul of East Stroudsburg. His passion for football was undeniable, but it was his dedication to the people of this town that truly set him apart. Coach Christian believed in the power of community, and he saw this stadium not just as a place where games were won or lost, but as a gathering place where memories were made, values were instilled, and lives were changed. Tonight, we are going to hear amazing stories from former players, former coaches, co-workers, and community members honoring the life and legacy of Coach. We can all still hear his classic one-liners, and I think I can even still hear him and Doc arguing with each other in the coach's office. I can still hear the stories he had about Coach Rose, Coach Arnold, Jimmy Terwilliger, Dan Kaysen, and James Mungro. And although each story will be different, the same message will repeat itself over and over again. Coach Christian's influence extended beyond the gridiron. He was deeply committed to the well-being and success of every young person he encountered. Whether it was offering a word of encouragement, helping someone find their path, or simply being there to listen, Coach made each of us feel valued and capable of greatness. In a town like ours, where high school football is more than just a game, Coach Christian understood the responsibility that came with his role. He wasn't just preparing us to win football games, he was preparing us for life. He taught us about teamwork, perseverance, and the importance of giving your all no matter the circumstances. His lessons were timeless, and they resonated with everyone, from players to parents to fans. As we make our way down to the Purple Pit tonight, it's fitting that we name this stadium after Coach. From this day forward, every game played there, every cheer, every touchdown will carry his legacy. Coach's Stadium will be a place where future generations of the purple and white can learn the same values that Coach instilled in all of us. It will be a constant reminder of a man who gave so much to East Stroudsburg and whose spirit will continue to inspire us. As we unveil the name of the stadium today, let us remember that it stands as more than just a tribute. It's a symbol of the impact one person can have on an entire community, a beacon of the values Coach Christian lived by, and a testament to the love and respect we all have for him. For those that don't know, I will be getting married in December to my amazing fiancée, Brittany. Brittany, can you stand up for us, please? Thank you so much, Brittany. I love you. And God willing, one day, our children will walk into that stadium with me on game nights, and I cannot wait for the first time my child looks up to me and goes, "Dad, who's Ed Christian?" Now, I know if Coach was still here, he would be screaming at me, "Matthew, kickoff is in 2 hours." So to wrap up, thank you, Coach. Thank you for everything you have done for us and for everything you have done for me. Your legacy will live on in this stadium, in this town, and in our hearts forever. Thank you.
Our next speaker was a coach, a teacher, and a former athletic director here at South. He's also an inducted member of the Athletic Hall of Fame. Please welcome Mark Brown.
Mike's ordered me. I get no more than 3 minutes. You guys know me. Everybody's going to talk about Ed being a tremendous football coach. And of course he was. But I want to tell some things about Ed that I remember when we were both young teachers back in the 1970s, back when Patty and Eddie were just little kids coming along with him. Certainly Ed is a tremendous football coach that accomplished more than any coach in this school district has ever done. But as someone earlier alluded to, Ed was a highly respected English teacher. He was looked up to by kids in this school long before he became a head football coach. Kids that were having problems at home or problems in the community would come and sit with Ed in between classes and after school and bleed their hearts out to Ed, and he would comfort them. Certainly Ed was a tremendous teacher, but he was a mentor who was admired and respected by everybody. I got to know Ed when we were both assistant directors at the Dansbury Park Pool in the summer. You see, there was a time when Ed was an assistant football coach and didn't have to do stuff year-round, so he could come down to the park, and that's where I really got to know Ed. You know, Patty and Eddie would come and they'd go through swim lessons when they were little kids, and we really got to know Ed, not just as a teacher, but as a tremendous family man. I got to tell you a story about Ed down at the pool. When we were both assistant directors at the Dansbury Park Pool back in the mid-1970s, we were kind of sitting there on the ledge in front of the office and just sort of looking out and watching the kids swimming and all that. And somebody's mother came up and started screaming and hollering at Ed and I. But one of the lifeguards had benched one of her kids because they were doing something, and Ed looked at me, and he got a little bit of a smile on his face, and he said, "Ma'am, just 1 second, let me go get the director, Mr. Keglevitz." And he goes and gets Keg, God rest his soul too. And this lady's going off on Keg, and she's pointing her finger at his chest. And, you know, Al, he was just sort of smiling and trying to calm the lady down. And Ed and I almost fell over. We laughed so hard. But that's one of my favorite stories about Ed. But as somebody said, as Mike said a few minutes ago, Ed was not only a tremendous English teacher, he was not only a highly respected and admired member of our faculty here, but the thing that I got to know about Ed in the doggone near 50 years that I knew Ed, he was an incredible father, an incredible husband, and the one regret that I have for today, people, is that Ed can't be here to be honored and enjoy this honor in person. But having said that, Patty and Eddie, he's up there with your mom, with his arm around your mom, looking down on us, and he's got that big Ed Christian smile on his face. God bless you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Ed.
Thank you, Mark. Ed's effect was not limited to the past. Our next speaker was the team captain of the 2018-2019 season, where the team retired the coach with a district championship. Please welcome Elijah Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Elijah Johnson. I had the honor of being team captain of the 2018-2019 football class that retired Coach Ed Christian with a PIAA District 11 championship. If I happen to get emotional today, just please start booing. I promise I'll try to lock back in. I would like to start off by saying I cannot express my gratitude enough to the man who inspired me at a young age to not only be confident, but proud of the work being put in. Ed Christian was not only my coach, but he was my role model, my mentor, my hype man, and one of my biggest supporters. I first met Coach Christian in 2014 while I was attending J.T. Lambert Middle School. He had come down one afternoon to have a meeting with all 8th grade players. And as we waited in the cafeteria, Coach walked in, and I kid you not, we all thought he was like 6'9", just towering over everyone. But long story short, he had come and spoken to the team, gave out some packets, and as he was leaving, I decided to go personally introduce myself. I walked right up to the big man, I shook his hand, and I said, "Hello, Coach. My name's Elijah Johnson, and I'm looking forward to playing for you." He looked down at me, he did that smirk, and he said, "Yes, I know who you are." Fast forward a couple months later, we were already heading into the first week of freshman football practice. And on day one, my coach at the time came up to me and said I could not participate that day, and I had to come back later to speak with the coaches. So I left. And about 2 hours later, I decided to walk back to the stadium, straight to the coach's office. And there he was waiting for me with that same comforting smile and that ginormous container of pretzels he always kept on his desk. At this point, my heart was ready to explode, but if I'm being honest, he just sat me down and got to know me. He asked about my family, my beliefs, my goals, and he finished off the conversation by asking me how would I feel about playing varsity. I froze, but I remember looking at him with disbelief, and right away my voice got a little shaky. But of course, I shook his hand, I showed my gratitude, and I told him I won't let him down. That day, whether he knew it or not, changed me forever and shaped me to the man I am today. The next 3 years ended up being a wild roller coaster. Not only did we have 3 losing seasons in a row, but Coach was dealing with his own health issues on the side. Even with all that going on, Coach showed up every day with the same mentality, put the work in and believe in the process. Win or lose, he was always the same person, very encouraging and proud of his players. I remember right before my senior year, his plan to retire after the season was announced, and right there I knew my mission. I knew the last 3 years were only preparation for the living nightmare the EBC was about to go through. No mercy, no prisoners, and it was going to be a fist fight every time we touched that field. Whatever it took to leave a legacy in Coach's name was done. I even remember the coaches having to call timeouts to pull my butt off the field. And at the end of all this, to see him hold that championship trophy during our post-game interview will forever be one of my biggest accomplishments. But of course, the memories did not stop there. Coach Christian once came to one of my football games over at ESU. I remember running onto the tunnel, making my way onto the field. The crowd was cheering, the band was going, but in the middle of all that, I heard my name being called in that one distinct, deep, animated voice of his. I saw my guy right there laying on the fence, and the little kid in me loved every second of it, and the older version of me was prouder than ever. I'll forever be grateful that he got the chance to see me play college ball. The 2 lessons I took away from Coach Christian was, it's not a job if you love what you're doing. I met him when he was 70, and he retired when he was 77. That's someone that has passion. That's someone that loves his community. And to see him there with that trophy, I knew my job was done, and that was the only way I could fulfill what he has done for me. And the second thing was believe in the process and trust everything that comes to you will come. Thank you guys for having me. Have a good day.
Staying with our more current past, our next speaker is an electrician with the IBW Local 102. Prior to that position, she served as a Seabee in the United States Navy as a construction electrician. A graduate of the class of 2019, Gabby earned 13 athletic varsity letters and paved the way for underclassmen to be recognized for their talent, and was a 3-time captain of the girls' varsity soccer team. She was the kicker for the boys' varsity football team. She threw javelin, and she played basketball. I know I had the honor of being her principal and know she's a fine person. I want to add that before I got on the board last December, the former board tabled the discussion of naming the stadium at the November meeting for a variety of reasons. Hearing this, Gabby came to the December school board meeting and she gave such amazing inspirational words that our resolution easily passed. Please welcome Gabby Vasquez.
Oh, man. All right. I might have to go on my tippy toes. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for allowing me to speak. Again, it's an honor. The year was 2013, November 28th to be exact, and I was finally going to a Turkey Day game. I'd been playing football for the 7th and 8th grade team at JTL, and my mom knew that this would mean everything to me. I watched with excitement. Goodfellow and Patron were names highlighted in front where we sat. They were seniors that year. The 50-yard line, the best seats you could ever get at a football game. I leaned over with enthusiasm and said to my mom, I will be out there one day, and not only for soccer. I will be playing football. After that game, I got to go up to Coach Christian and speak to him, and I told him that I was going to play for him. He told me to keep my grades up and keep working hard, and anything was possible. He was a legend in my eyes, and obviously, clearly in the eyes of many. Sorry, I'm extremely nervous. Coaching football was his life, and playing sports was mine. My junior year, I would become the backup kicker, and I waited on the sidelines, pacing back and forth, hoping for my chance, always waiting. Senior year was my turn. Right before I would run on the field and kick an extra point, he would tell me, keep your head up, kid. Or keep your head down, kid, I apologize. And he would wait for me when I ran off the field and always tell me that I did good and patted me on the back. He knew it was tough being the only girl having to wait outside the locker room, and made sure I always knew that I was a part of the team. My senior year, 2018, would be the final year that he coached. It was an honor to win districts with him that year. Speaking at the board meeting was also very important to me. There was no question that Coach Christian was everything we learned about CavCorps. This school's whole foundation is based on community ownership, respect, and excellence to show our respect to a man who gave us the gift of his time, 52 seasons, is CavCorps. Coach had a love for the game, a love for his players. He cared very much for our well-being. He wanted us to not only succeed in the game, but in life. How we carried ourselves off the field was just important to him, if not more important to him, as how we played on the field. He was a coach, a teacher, a role model, and a mentor. I looked up to him. He was easy to talk to, easy to approach, and no matter how busy he may have been, he was never too busy to just listen. He gave his attention to everyone. Everyone mattered, no matter who you were, on and off the field, all the time. I wish Coach was here to witness this tonight. I'm sure he's smiling, proud, loving Friday Night Lights just as much as he always did. And I wish he was here just to tell him that I'm honored to have been coached by him. Just such an amazing person. I will forever look at my Cavalier jersey, number 30, with pride. I'm thankful to Coach for giving a girl a chance to play with the big guys, a chance to prove to myself that with hard work, anything is possible. When the stadium lights dimmed that last game, a legend took his final walk off the field, knowing he left his mark on the hearts of many. Coach Christian, thank you for all that you did for me and for us. Thank you for caring. Thank you for giving your passion for the game and life. Your name will never be forgotten. You gave us all a chance and made a difference, and that was your gift to all of us. A gentle giant, a player's coach. There is no one more deserving of this moment. Thank you.
Now continuing with athletic directors, I'd like to invite up another former athletic director here at the South High School, Mr. James Reynolds.
A little slow getting around here lately, but I just wanted to say a few things about Ed. We started a long time ago. Ed came to East Stroudsburg to be an assistant football coach in 1967, and I think I was there 1 year before that. And we coached together on Dick Marion's staff for a number of years. And the thing I remember from the time Ed came to our school district, he was a diligent worker, studied the game, would do anything possible to help our young athletes become what they thought and we thought they should be. But the thing I remember most is Ed had a sign over the door to the coaching office that I see it every time I get down into the stadium. It goes something like this: coaching is like shaving. You have to do it every day or you look like a bum. Well, the people in this room know that Ed Christian never looked like a bum. He was an outstanding coach, an outstanding teacher, and he did coach probably most days of his entire time here at East Stroudsburg. I can look down and see Ed and his young players, especially quarterbacks, working on the option on a day in January when it would be warm enough and the sun would melt a patch of green grass through the snow on the playing field. They'd be working on option reads. I can remember going into the weight room. Ed was there with a few of his staff members and a number of kids. I can remember coming down in the fall and having the same type of thing going on day after day after day. So he never looked like a bum. He was a top coach, and you can see here on some of this information and what we're doing here tonight, he was an outstanding young guy and an outstanding coach, and the community was lucky to have him. Thank you.
Our next speaker started coaching with Ed in 1976, his first year teaching. Al Kagovitz and he were the freshman football coaches. They were assistants under Dick Merring along with Jim Reynolds and Clark Stem. Ed became the head coach when Dick resigned in 1981. Ed made him the defensive coordinator, a position that he held for the next 24 years. Please welcome former coach and JTL English teacher, Rick Rose.
I first met Ed in 1976, and oddly enough, I met him at Dansbury Park's pool. What Mark forgot to tell you is he had a Speedo on. And I thought to myself, there's a man with a lot of confidence. And I was right. Ed, Jim, Clark Stem, Ed Bechtel, and Al Keglowitz and I were all coaches under Dick Merring. In 1981, Ed became the head coach. His first year, I believe we were 500. The next year, he won a league championship. And from then on, his success just soared. He was probably one of the winningest coaches in the Lehigh Valley during his tenure. My observations of Ed is he was an innovator. You look at the wall downstairs and all those pictures, that was Ed. You look at the weight room, that was Ed. He brought us into the computer age. I hate computers, but Ed had everything down to an art. He would have us go scout. We would write in booklets. The booklets would be transferred to the computer. And when Doug and I came out of meetings on Sundays, we had stacks of paper like that. He had everything. We would go down and distance, we would go hash mark, we would go formation. He was amazing. In fact, I remember a Pocono article record one time where the coach from Pocono Mountain said, "We can't beat them. They're too strong. They're too big. They've shown us our weakness." And I thought, that was pretty amazing that somebody would say that. But Ed was also, you know, you talk about player's coach. Ed was a coach's coach too. He took a great interest in what we knew. He sent us to clinics. I mean, we went to North Carolina State, we went to Virginia Tech, we spent years at Penn State, we went to ESU, we went up to Post, we went to different successful high schools, we went to Temple, we went everywhere. He just wanted to learn. He wanted to know more and more and more about how we could be successful. And he let us coach, which I thought was a big deal as a young coach. If we had ideas, he listened to them. He didn't always like them, but he listened to them. And if he did like them, he would agree. And he did that with all his assistants, and I thought, wow, that's really pretty cool. He let us make changes. For years and years and years, we were in, some of you old guys will remember this, the 6-1 invert, whatever that is. We went to a 4-4, we went to a 53, we changed our coverages, all with his blessing. But we had to know what we were talking about. And we did that through all of the different clinics and coaches that we talked to. You wanted to find Ed any day of the week, even on Sundays, he was in the office. He was in the office, he was working. Wasn't just in there to take a nap, he was working all the time. Football was Ed. I have a funny story to tell about Ed one time. He didn't think it was funny at the time. We were playing Stroudsburg, and I think, Jimmy, you were a freshman. And the punter, you were the punter, and they kept snapping the ball over your head, snapping the ball over your head, snapping the ball over your head. The official comes up, and he hands me the ball. And I'm not very happy. So I take the ball, and I toss it as far as I can. So we get a turnover, and Ed yells, "Ball, ball, ball!" And I said, "I got some bad news for you, Ed." He goes, "What's that?" I said, "I just threw the ball out of the stadium." He says, "Oh, that's just great." So we got over it. He laughed. Later on, probably a couple of weeks later, he looked at me, he says, "Was it a good throw?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it was a good throw." It was my pleasure to have coached Ed. A coach with Ed. I have a saying that I heard a couple of years ago, and it says, all people die twice in their lifetime. Once when their earthly form leaves, and again when memories and I forget the other part, when memories and people stop saying his name. So through this dedication, I hope that generations of Cavaliers talk about Ed.
Our next speaker has always been synonymous with Eastburg sports. He taught many of you to drive, but more importantly, he showed care, compassion, and expertise as an athletic trainer. Whenever you had a problem, you ran to Doc. Even when I was a principal, I ran to Doc when my shoulder hurt, my arm hurt. He always had time for you, advice, and of course, a joke. While he was never subtle, he was one of the most beloved people out on that field. Please welcome Armin Doc Martinelli.
I think before I read what I wrote, are we starting to see a theme here about Ed? About what a really good person Ed was? And, I mean, that's where I'm going with this. And I think we're going to hear that over and over again with the rest of the speakers. But with that said, let me tell you how I found out Ed was such a good person. In 1980, I got hired by Mr. Jim Reynolds. I was his first hire. I tell him all the time it was the biggest mistake he ever made. Ed was his second hire. That may have been the second big mistake he ever made. I'm not sure. But my very first year, you know, the coaches were excited to have an athletic trainer because they didn't want to tape ankles anymore, is what it came down to. And so they were, we have an athletic trainer, we don't have to tape ankles. Well, any of you that played for us and knows everything that I did, knows I did a lot more than tape ankles. And, you know, we're fortunate enough tonight to have one of my mentors from college here, Mr. Mert Shane, who was the guy that taught me how to tape ankles. He's right back there. Mert, stand up so you can see who taught me how to tape ankles. Any of you that ever got your ankle taped by me, that's the man to thank. He only gave me a C on my tape job for my finger. I was really mad at him. But the coaches were very excited not to have to do that. And then we started camp. And you know, Mr. Reynolds was my friend. I felt I had a friend in Mr. Reynolds because I'd spent some time over the summer with him, you know, getting supplies and equipment and stuff. And unfortunately, he was away on vacation when we opened camp. And then I started to be an athletic trainer. And what a shock it was to the coaching staff. Now, I don't think it shocked Rick. I don't think it shocked Doug because they played college football and they knew what athletic trainers did. But it shocked the head coach a great deal. So one day I had cause to go into his office to talk to him about an athlete. And let's say we had a very spirited discussion. Would you say it was spirited, Rick? It was spirited? So we exchanged pleasantries, and I left pretty angry. And I thought, this place is crazy. You know, I was taught to be an athletic trainer. These people don't want an athletic trainer. They want an ankle taper. And I was pretty angry. And then Ed had the nerve to walk into my office. And I jumped right down his throat. I said, now what do you want, Ed? You want to go now, Ed? Threw his hands up and said, whoa, whoa. I'm on your side. I agree with you. He was the only one that did that. And you know, at that moment, after thinking that I was going to leave this place at any given moment because they didn't want an athletic trainer, I decided to stay because I had a friend. And for the next 40 years, he and I were friends. Now, I'm not telling you that we didn't have any spirited discussions. We did. Lots of them. Matthew alluded to it. The players would stand in the hallway after I got done with the spirited discussion and kind of look at me as I walked down the hall, angry. But then, when the day was over and everybody else was gone, I would walk down to his office, sit down in a chair across from him, and everything was okay because we were friends. And we would talk about it, and we'd get over it. And the next day, it was like it never happened. And I want to tell you, I miss him every single day. I think about him every single day. Some of the stuff that we did together was very impactful. And some of it was just fun. And I miss him. And now I know that I'll be able to come down here and look at that stadium and be able to explain to people, just like Rick said, and Matthew said, who Ed Christian was. And that'll be a great thing, and I'll really enjoy doing that. Thank you very much.
Oops. Sorry, my pages are stuck too. The next speaker started as a football manager in the fall of 1998 in 8th grade at JTL. She first met Ed that fall, and he came to see the practice down at JTL. As he and she spoke, he offered her to manage the high school football team. For her entire high school career, she was the head manager. After graduating high school, she stayed on to do their new scouting system, which was the first computerized system used in the high school. She and Ed remained friends for the next 25 years. Please welcome Margaret Iriadi.
I had the privilege of starting in 1998 as a football manager, as you just heard. My home life was not ideal for a 14-year-old girl, and I needed something I could call my own. Ed Christian gave me a safe place. The stadium became my home, where I was surrounded by amazing adults, like Coach Rose and Doc, and of course Ed Christian, who would show me what good men were supposed to be like. As the years went on, I started a scouting program for the coaches, went to college, got married and had children, taught and coached football on my own while being guided by Coach. There is truly no way to cover 24 years of the blessings that Coach gave me in 3 minutes. What I can do is leave you all with some of my favorite Coach quotes. When it was pouring down rain, well, Margaret, it's raining like a cow peeing on a flat rock. While he was with his 11th grade English students, standing at his podium with his big ring knocking on the side, he'd say, "You're my B-level students going to college." When I'd say, "Hey, Coach, how we doing today?" Well, like Rosanna Dana says, it's always something. And my favorite, after every visit, with a big burly hug, or to end a phone call, he'd say, "It's been a little slice of heaven, Margaret." Because of Coach, I became a better student, mom, teacher, and coach, and a better all-around human being. I'd like to leave this with a quote from a book that Coach taught, and one of my all-time favorites, The Great Gatsby, by F. Scott Fitzgerald. He had one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you came across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole eternal world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. If understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself. Ed Christian was a little slice of heaven in my life, and forever he will be my coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Our next speaker was a player for Ed for many, many years ago. He clearly remembers the influence that Ed had on him. He was a major supporter of Ed, a regular on the sidelines of games, and is currently my colleague on the school board, chairing the Building and Facilities Committee, and the man instrumental in getting our dedication resolution to the board and passed by the board. Please welcome my friend, Wayne Bruner.
want to thank the community for coming out here tonight. I just want to share with you my experience with Coach Christian. Started playing at the Purple Pit as an ESY football player in 1973. As a freshman, Rick Rose and Al Keglevitz were my coaches. My head coach was Coach Mehring, Jim Reynolds, Coach Christian, and Coach Pappy Stem. Coach Christian was my positional coach as an offensive lineman. One of the things that he did, like we heard all night long, he took an interest in every one of his players. And after the Christmas holiday of my junior year, Coach Christian gave me 4 tapes, cassette tapes. They were from Vince Lombardi. The tapes' messages were dedication, commitment, courage, and pride. So I took those tapes, went into the basement, played them over and over. It was clear that Ed Christian just wanted to make me a better player, start my fire. So I gave them back. Senior year, you know, I enjoyed every moment of playing the game. I loved the game of football. I loved my coaches. You're all my mentors. And one of the things that I recall my senior year is when we were changing classes, I'd be walking to my next class, my books in my hand, and all of a sudden he would yell, "Breakdown!" And I looked at him. "Coach, what are you trying to say?" So he took me aside because he didn't get the desired effect. So he was telling me about the 75 football team, how he would yell breakdown, and the football players would throw their books and get in a 3-point stance as fast as they could. So the next time I saw him, he's walking up the stairs, and he's waiting. And he yells breakdown. So I throw my books, I get in a 3-point stance, and that man laughed his ass off. That's what he wanted to see, books fly. I'm just thrilled for you guys to be here to honor him. He deserves it. I do want to mention his passion and dedication. He called me, I don't know, winter, spring 2016, wanted to meet me at Perkins, and he was plotting his return. And he was adamant about interviewing. He wanted his job back. At that time, I was a rookie school board man. And if it wasn't for the community, you're the ones that I should be thanking. Through your desire, we brought him back. And here we are tonight, dedicating his legacy, and it's an honor to honor Coach Ed Christian. Thank you.
We have more people to share their thoughts, but as I said, Ed was an English teacher. So it's only fitting that we take a moment from our speakers, and I want to dedicate a poem that I found in his honor. The poem reminds us what we are hearing tonight of all the inspiration that a coach can give. So I give you the poem, The Coach. The crowd is gone, the cheers have stopped, and the equipment is stored away. The team is standing on the field because the coach is leaving today. He led them through the hardest times and was proud the times they won. But now the season's over and his time as coach is done. The team will go on without him, will perform at the usual pace. But though another coach comes in, there'll be a void in this place. Today, when the field is emptied and the team has met the test, the coach can feel certain that he will be remembered as simply the best. And now I'd like to invite Nicole Rideout back up to do a song in Ed's honor, and from the Disney movie, Hercules. Thank you, Rachel and Nicole. Wow. Our next speaker is a household name here in East Stroudsburg. He is an American college coach and former player. He's the head football coach for the East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania, a position he's held since 2019. From 2009 to 2013, he was the head football coach at Pleasant Valley High School. He ended his career at East Stroudsburg University as a four-time NCAA Division II All-American by the Football Gazette and the Division II National Player of the Year in 2005, winning the Harlan Hill Trophy. Please welcome Jimmy Terwilliger.
Thank you, Mike. It's really humbling to be here tonight among some of the most amazing Cavaliers, coaches, people that I've grown up watching playing this sport, Ed's family, and to be standing here tonight speaking on a man that we all love, has had a major impact on all of us, is really humbling to me. Looking at the stadium here, you know, And looking at what Ed has done, that's what makes East Stroudsburg pretty special. It separates this place from other places that I've been, other places that I've seen. We have tradition, we have heritage, and you walk through the stadium, you walk through the halls here, you can feel the pride that East Stroudsburg has, and that's what Ed Christian stood for. He was East Stroudsburg. When you think about it, he is East Stroudsburg in a lot of different ways, and I'm just really humbled to be a small piece of that equation. And I look here tonight, and we're all here to celebrate it, but one of the things that came up to me was I first met Ed when I was not a football player. Like you heard Eli talk about, I met Ed in 1998 when I was a soccer player, and J.T. Lambert had their inaugural football season. Mike, you were the principal at J.T. Lambert. Doug, you were an assistant principal, and you came over the microphone and said, anybody interested in playing football, come down to the cafeteria. So I waddled down, and there was a big meeting, and just like Eli had mentioned, there was this massive human being in the back of the room. And I remember sitting in the front. I was a soccer player at the time, and looking back, and we all know who he was, because we had all been to see James and Timmy and those guys play, and we all know who Ed was. Margaret, you were there, and you can remember that day. And I can't really remember what was said during the meetings, but I remember Ed came down, and he asked all the quarterbacks to stay afterwards. And when you're in 8th grade, everybody's a quarterback. So there was a lot of us. And he went down one by one by one, and he asked us our names. And I was nervous. And my voice never cracked so bad. I said, what's your name, young man? I said, Jimmy Terwilliger. And he gave me this look, and y'all can remember this look. And he was staring through my soul. And if there was any question of whether I was going to play football or not, it was answered right there. I can tell you that much. And I was super excited about it. And that man, just like Coach Rose had said, he coached every day of his life. And like Coach Reynolds said, he coached it every single day. I don't care if it was a Saturday morning. He would meet me with Egg McMuffins in Memorial Stadium, Ed Christian Memorial Stadium. And he was an innovator. Coach, you were right. He always had a new contraption. There was one day I walked out to practice. He put pencils in my shoelaces. And he said, wherever the pencil points, well, that's where the ball's going to go. I said, all right, well, if I don't stab somebody, it'll be all right. And he always had new contraption. It was amazing. And he spent every single day developing me as a player, as a coach, and as a man. And we even took trips to Penn State in the old blue bomber car. You know, we would drive out to Penn State every year. And we'd go 3 practices a day, and Ed would coach, and then he'd come back to the dorm room after night with a pepperoni pizza and a 2-liter bottle of Coke, and we'd talk more football, as if the man couldn't get enough football. And he took the time to not only develop me as a player, but he instilled the love of the game. I loved playing football for Ed Christian. And everybody that played here for him, you all loved it too. There's no difference in that. You love playing the game for the man because he instilled that in you. And when I got done playing for Ed, I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, there wasn't much of a market for a 5'0", 100-0 quarterback. I thought going to East Stroudsburg University, playing for that bald guy and the guy with the mustache right there was going to sign my death sentence. And Ed looked at me serious as all hell, and he said, hey, this is where you got to go. And I thank God that he was the main influence, that when Denny recruited me and I played for my dad, Ed Christian said, hey, if you go there, you're going to be all right. And I always trusted my coach because he believed in me. And he believed in me when it wasn't cool to believe in people. When my sophomore year, we were 1-11. And it wasn't cute to stand behind a sophomore quarterback. You guys can remember those days. It wasn't the popular decision by all the community, you know, to stand by a young sophomore quarterback when you're 1-11. But he believed in me, and that put the belief in myself. And the guys that played for Ed, you guys know when he believed in you, he gave you the confidence to go and do whatever you wanted in life. And I really appreciate that. And it's really something that's impacted my life, was a man who believed in you. And he made the belief in yourself. Ed also would, when I got done playing at East Stroudsburg, I had a couple different options of what I wanted to do, but it's real pretty simple. I wanted to be Ed. I wanted to be Ed Christian. I saw who he was to the people that he coached. I saw who he was to this community. I saw the impact that he had on others. When he walked through the hallways here, that's who I wanted to be. So when I came back here as a teacher, I wanted to be like Ed Christian. And he took the time to develop me as a coach. And when I went to Pleasant Valley, I went through his philosophy of high expectations. It was written on a typewriter. I took the philosophy, I typed it back, and I just changed Pleasant Valley to East Stroudsburg to Pleasant Valley, and I went to Pleasant Valley. And when you look at East Stroudsburg University, you see a blend of Denny Dowds and you see a blend of Ed Christian, because those are the two impact people that I know, and those are the two people that have had a great impact on me. The last thing I'll tell you is this, he would say two things, really. It wasn't what you were willing to do to be great. It was what you were willing to sacrifice. He would always say that to me, and I never really kind of got that at the time, but sacrifice and being able to give yourself to others was something that he preached. And before every game, and every Cavalier knows this, we would pray. We would pray, and he would bring us into the rifle room. He would ask for everybody on both sides of the field to be free from any serious injury or harm. He would ask the Lord for the opportunities to make plays that only champions can make. And then he would finish with, and as always, thank God we're Cavaliers. I thank God I'm a Cavalier. I thank God I had the opportunity to play, coach, and for the lifelong friend of Ed Christian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Next up is a man who has been a professional journalist since 1977, working for a number of newspapers, including 8 years as the news editor and reporter for the Baltimore Sun, where he covered government, politics, and crime. They probably all go together, right? He moved into sports writing when he joined the Washington Times in 1992. He covered the World Series, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL playoffs, World Championship fights, the Winter Olympics, and the Summer Olympics. He's the author of 11 books on the Washington Redskins, the Baltimore Orioles, the Philadelphia Eagles, championship wrestling, and more. He's a member of the East Stroudsburg Athletic Hall of Fame. Please welcome Tom Lavero.
You know, I don't know if I did all that without a little bit of help Ed Christian gave me, a gift that he gave me when I was a high school student here. You know, I had a lot of people help me along the way, but before I ever thought of being a writer, there was one little gift that Ed Christian gave me that I still value to this day. I was probably one of Ed's first students here. I was in 9th grade in 1967 when he came here, and I had him for morning English. And we had a good relationship then, you know, nothing special, but he was a fun teacher to be around. So I had him again for my junior year, and by the time I was a junior, I was in full-blown class clown mode, okay? I was majoring in reasons for teachers not to care about me by the time I was a junior. But Ed did. I wasn't a football player. God only knows why he cared, but he cared about me. We had to read and study Othello as the big project for English that year. I would have rather stuck needles in my eyes than read Othello. I mean, I couldn't even get myself to read the Cliff Notes. So I failed miserably the test that we had, and it was a big part of the grade. So Ed pulls me aside, and he says, "You're going to fail this class this year. You're going to have to take it again." And I said, "I can't do that. I got to get out of this school." So I said, "I'm doing good in some of my other classes." And he said, "Like what?" And I said, "Social studies." So he took me down to Dale Baker's room, my social studies teacher, And he said, yeah, he's doing pretty good in this. And that's because I read the paper every day. I knew what was going on in the world, I just didn't know what was going on in the classroom. So Ed took me back to his office, his room, and he goes in his desk and he gives me a copy of The Old Man and the Sea. And he says, here, I want you to go read this and do a report about it. Well, I devoured it, and I wrote the report and became an Ernest Hemingway fan forever, passed the grade, and managed to barely get out of high school, but I got out. 30 years later, I'm in this little fishing village in Cuba, just outside of Havana, called Cojimar. It was where Ernest Hemingway lived when he was in Cuba. And I'm in the house of 101-year-old Gregorio Fuentes interviewing him. Gregorio Fuentes was Ernest Hemingway's ship captain. He was the old man from The Old Man and the Sea. That's who Ernest Hemingway was writing about. And I'm sitting in his house interviewing him for a story, and all I could think of was Ed Christian and that book he gave me, and how special it still is to me today. Thank you, Ed. I'll always appreciate it.
Another player from back in the class of 1983. Please welcome John Porter.
First and foremost, I just want to thank Patty and Eddie for the opportunity to say a few words about your dad. I'm really honored to be up here, to be included with the likes of Tim Mack and Dave Williamson, Wayne Roner, Carl Eschenbach, guys that I played with and looked up to, and all the other speakers as well, especially the dedicated coaches and head trainer who worked so closely with Coach Christian. With age comes perspective, and looking back, I see how lucky I was, how lucky my class was really to have this caliber of coaches around us. It does strike me now, though, how young those coaches were back in the early 80s, many of them not older than the players were. We were a little intimidated by Coach Rose. We looked up to him. I mean, we literally looked up to him. But we didn't have the nerve to go up and ask him, hey, Coach Rose, the guys and I would like to have a word with you. What is with this cheer, E-I-E-I-E-I-O? I mean, this is a line from Old MacDonald Had a Farm. So not really relevant to football, but you know what, we didn't have that nerve. So we just yelled that back to him, and he yelled it back to us, and we yelled it back to him. And we'll always remember that cheer. Coach Galante, we were a little afraid of him too, but not for what you think. He was so young, he still had braces, and when he yelled at us, the rubber bands would fly out at us. And we'd sort of have to duck to get away from the rubber bands. Coach Arnold, he was the scholarly one. He taught us about trap blocking and chop blocking, pass blocking, zone blocking, reach blocking, any blocking you can possibly imagine, he taught us. And then come game time, when we got up to the line, we resorted to what my left tackle, Dane Epley, called him blocking. I got him, you got him. Who's got him? And fingers pointing all over the place. But getting back to Coach Christian, it's not a stretch to say that Coach Christian has impacted the lives of many Cavaliers that he's coached over the decades. One such player will remain nameless. He was 1 year ahead of me. He played his sophomore year, and then he gave it up, and he stopped playing his junior year. Coach Christian became head coach. He reached out to him before his senior year to see, hey, do you need any help in school? I'm here for you. He encouraged him to go back out for football, and he did. He played his senior year, and to this day, this guy looks back with really good memories of that year and is grateful that Ed cared enough to offer his support and to guide him back to the football field. As a sophomore, I also just wanted to get on the field. On special teams, I got the block on punt returns for guys like Jimmy Hartman and Cal Miller. I looked up to the upperclassmen, especially Tim Strunk. I wanted to get his number, 61, and I wanted to be left guard when he graduated. And when I think back on my Cavalier days and my teammates and coaches, I literally close my eyes and I see them exactly as they were then. My senior year on the O-line, I see Dane Epley on my left asking me who to block. I see Damon Epley, the late Damon Epley at center on my right, the late Joe Putek at guard on the right, and Kevin Suma at right tackle. I see their faces so clearly as they were then, and I will always cherish my Cavalier days and especially my O-line teammates. I close my eyes and I see Ed Christian on the sideline. The stadium is packed. The fences are lined with Cavalier fans. The home crowd, the cheerleaders, the pep band, they combine to transform that stadium into the purple pit. Ed is steady, collected, determined. Ed Christian was not a rah-rah guy. He didn't shout or curse. His demeanor, the way he carried himself, that is what most made an impression on me. I have coached football now or rugby for the past 35 years, and I have tried to carry myself as a coach the way he did, to approach the game the way he did, love the game, and care for your players. When I tell people what I do, I start with coaching first, even though it's not my day job. Ed Christian helped to shape the way I approach coaching, really the way I approach life. Steady, collected, determined, and for that I will always be grateful for his influence. In closing, I would like to thank the folks who came up with the idea of naming the stadium after Coach Christian. Also for all your hard work putting it in motion and carrying it through the completion. Bravo, Zulu. You got it right. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker was a key player and captain on Cavalier teams that won on a 15-game win streak and won a championship. He went on to become a walk-on at Penn State and was a member of the Citrus Bowl championship team. A legendary bowler. He won 70 titles in 30 countries on 5 continents, has won 7 international championships, was named the 2002 World Bowlers Writers International Bowler of the Year, was a member of the Team USA and a gold medalist at World Championships, and was captain of Team USA and the Weber Cub for several years. He manages the Portland Lumberjacks of the PBA League, lending them to a Eli Cup team title in 2019, 2020, and 2022. Please welcome Tim Mack.
First, before I begin, I got to say it's good to be home. It's really good to be home. So I'd like to thank Mike Catrillo and everyone on the committee for allowing me to be part of this great celebration. Very grateful for that. Everyone that has had a hand in coming up with the idea of renaming the stadium after Ed, I salute you all. It's long overdue. I want to give a special shout out to 2 really important people in this room, Patty and Ed. Your dad was a special man. I want to say thank you for giving us his time. He's just one of the best I've ever been around, and very grateful that he spent a lot of time away from you, a lot of time developing and helping us grow. So How do you honor such a man who has done so much for so many and given so much? I can't think of a better way than the most influential man in the history of East Stroudsburg football than to rename the stadium after Ed Christian Jr. Ed Christian's accolades, and his career records will stand the test of time. He was and always will be a Hall of Fame coach, but more importantly, he was a Hall of Fame person to me. I was blessed to be part of multiple championship teams. I was able to share this experience with my great teammates, who some are here tonight. And Ed was incredible because he had the most amazing coaching staff that helped develop us as great men. Ed Christian was a leader of men. Surrounded himself around great coaches that became mentors to us. He impacted everyone around him. He and his staff always teaching us to do the right thing and always don't take the shortcut, always go the extra mile. Like many before me and many after me, I walked into his program as a young boy. I left his program as a young man. Many of the lessons I learned while wearing the purple and white in the purple pit, I still carry with me to this day in my everyday life. And for that, I'm forever indebted to Ed and the coaches that are in this room. Every year around this time, smell of the grass, the hot, the humidity, takes me back to the 3-a-days that we used to get ready to prepare for football season. It's football time, my favorite time of the year, Ed's time. My experience here in the Purple Pit was incredible on so many different levels. It taught me discipline, humility, a never quit attitude, to give your best no matter what in every facet of life. I'm 35 years removed from playing my last high school football day. But the impact of the lessons that I learned from Ed and his amazing staff, I carry with me every day. Every year that goes by, you realize how special your time was and how special it was. And each year that goes by, you want to grasp a little bit more of it. I was so thankful that each year I tried to come back, and it was always great to see Ed, whistle in his hand, ready to bark out some orders, and see the friends and also some of the coaching staff. It was always very special to me to always come back home. How lucky was I? I got to play football for two legends, Ed Christian and Joe Paterno at Penn State. And the reason why I mentioned Joe Paterno is because Joe and Ed had so many similar qualities. They were a man's man. They were great teachers. They were great mentors. The biggest attribute, accountability, perseverance, preparation to detail, some of the things that some of the speakers have already mentioned tonight. Both coaches pushed us hard to get the best out of us and the best out of our teams. And I know that I did everything I did personally to make him happy and make him smile. That I will never forget. I've got a couple of great stories that I'm just going to share. Coach Arnold's obviously here. Coach Cardy, I see Coach Rose. Both Coach Roses, you guys will remember this. Wing right, 8 sprint draw, 8 straight times in a row. 1987, right down here in the Purple Pit to win the Centennial League Championship. The funny thing about it was that after the 4th time, I looked across at our opponents and I told them what play was coming. I said, guys, it doesn't matter. You can't stop us. Ed said, let them know about it. Let them know about it. I'll never forget that moment. After that game, we held the trophy. It was an amazing feeling. Ed with his glare and stare at practice when we would mess up at huddle. Run it again, run it again. That voice is still in my ear. Walking home over the Interborough Bridge when Ed got a chance to win his first Turkey Day game in Stroudsburg. Nothing but smiles, full of mud. What a memory, I'll never forget it. Beating Council Rock when no one thought we could beat this big school from Philadelphia. We put it on our schedule and they said, you can't beat him. You're just this little school up in East Stroudsburg. And then walking off the field and putting his arm around my shoulder and said, Mackie, we did it. We got him. And I'll never forget it. Summer sprints. I just remember the lining up just like the 3-point stance, but we were in the dirt. Set, ready, go! And then running the sprints, sweating like you have malaria, like you're gonna fall over and die. Again, the memories, they last a lifetime. It goes on and on and on. I'll leave you with this. In my life, I've been blessed to travel to 72 countries around the world and play sport at the highest level. I've been blessed to play for our country, Team USA, and win a gold medal and stand on the podium wrapped in the American flag, listening to our national anthem. None of it's possible without Ed and his staff. None of it. The Berg is where I'm from. I was built in the Berg, and I'm very proud of that. Thank God I was lucky enough to have Ed as my coach, my mentor, my teacher. I'm not sure my path would have been the same in my life without his imprint in my life. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. Everyone thinks we have time. You can't buy it. You can't store it. But you can use it to the best of your abilities and not waste it. I was lucky in my life to have time with Ed Christian, and so were a lot of people in this room. In closing, just like the great quarterback and the great man Jimmy just said earlier, it's funny how when you walk through this program, how many similarities there are, because I have it written down on my phone. Just like we ended every single game prayer, hand in hand, with Coach Arnold delivering that prayer. Thank God we're Cavaliers, and thank God Ed Christian was our coach. Love you forever, Coach. Thank you very much for letting me be part of this night.
Our next speaker comes to us all the way from South Dakota. He is a 1991 graduate and a member of the East Stroudsburg Meritorious Hall of Fame. He is currently an ENT and facial plastic surgeon in South Dakota, and recently became the head coach of the South Dakota All-Star 16 Boys Ice Hockey Program. Please welcome Skip Muller.
I'll start by telling you a great memory from medical school. I was exhausted, and I was gunning for a really competitive residency program. And I was tired and I had a lot more work to do. And I heard Ed's voice behind me saying, I wonder what they're doing in Stroudsburg right now. In other words, work harder because someone else is ready to work harder. Will it be you or will it be them? And that was the motivation I needed to push on to get what I wanted, to satisfy that accomplishment. When I first met Ed, I was in grade school and he was a swim instructor at Dansbury Park. And I thought he was mean, really mean. But you know what? When you're in water over your head and you're gonna either sink or swim, it was his job to make sure we swam. Not just me, but all of us. Fast forward to high school, he's an English teacher, and he's now coach. With academics and athletics, he was gonna make sure you swam. He was gonna bring out the best in you. That's the memory. That's the message. All the wins, all the championships, ask yourselves, how did he get all those victories? By bringing out the best in all of us. Never played football after high school, but all of those lessons followed me everywhere. Life lessons, dedication, discipline. Sadly, you just don't see that enough everywhere else you go. I now coach the state's all-star hockey team, and I'm trying to bring that to them. I go around the country to conferences where other coaches for the last 4 or 5 years, the number one topic that comes up over and over again is how do you get a winning culture? Culture. How do you get your all-stars to play as team members? How do you bring out the best in everyone? I'm like, really? It's 2024, you have to ask? Because what they're asking for is called Cavalier pride. I had it 35 years ago, and it was here long before I showed up. And we have Ed and all of his staff members to thank for that. Okay, we have administrators to thank for that. because it's not enough of that is going on around the country right now. Dedication to yourself, lead by example, that was Ed's message. Patty, I promise you, 1,000 miles from here, there's a group of kids on a sheet of ice. They will be better athletes and they will be better persons. And all I have to do is share with them something your dad taught me. That's the legacy. And I hope it lives on for a very long time. I want to thank all those responsible for the renaming of the stadium. So worthwhile, so worthy. And fellas, you stole my line. As always, thank God I'm a Cavalier.
Thank you, Skip. Our next speaker has been a judge on the Monroe County Court of Common Pleas since 2012. Prior to becoming a judge, he was a lawyer in East Stroudsburg for 16 years. He graduated from East Stroudsburg Area High School in 1987. He then graduated from Dickinson College in 1991, where he lettered in football for 4 years. He later obtained his law degree from Widener University School of Law in 1995. He played for Ed for 3 years on the 84, 85, and 86 football teams. They stayed connected through that time of the 1985 football team induction into the ESASD Hall of Fame in 2022, and after seeing each other around town and here at the stadium. Please welcome Judge David Williamson.
Well, it's tough to follow a dozen speakers, but I'm going to have probably a lot of the same similar things to say about Coach Christian. He had that impact on us all. I am honored to have this opportunity to be here tonight and to say a few words about Coach Ed Christian. It's no surprise that everyone here probably has a great story to tell. So lasting memories of Coach. His indelible impact on us all as students, as athletes, as friends, as colleagues, as coaches, as family, is simply amazing. I do want to thank those who made this dedication possible, especially Doug Arnold and Mike Cotrillo. Thank you. I feel privileged to have known Coach Christian, to have played for him, to have learned important lessons from life from him. I could share many funny stories that Coach Christian had upon us as players, including how he inadvertently started a nickname for me while watching game film during my first start as a sophomore offensive lineman. Many of my teammates are here tonight and still call me that name today. That's a story for another time. I'd rather talk to you about Coach Christian's impact on me and others that are here today. I played for Coach Christian on the 84, 85, and 86 football teams, which like many of his teams had some talent, but mostly consisted of hard workers and team players. I could talk endlessly about those teams. I could talk endlessly about my teammates. I could talk endlessly about the games I played in, much to the dismay of my wife, who puts up with it. I can say that of the record that's up there, I played on a team that had 11 wins in a season. I played on a team that had 3 losses at the end of the year to Stroudsburg. I played on one of those 3 tying teams. So I've experienced it all. And after each of those games, Coach Christian always had something that moved you on, took you to the next game, to the next challenge. I have a lot of good memories about the times that I played for Coach. But looking back now, I think the clearest and most important memory that I've carried with me is how Coach Christian treated his players and his fellow coaches. And you've heard from Coach Rose already about his impact on his fellow coaches. I've heard that before from Coach Rose, Coach Arnold, some other former coaches here today. I have a good friend here today that's a former coach. All say the same thing. He was a coach's coach. He listened to the other coaches. He let them coach. I think they understand what that means. As players, he was firm, but he was fair. He didn't play favorites. He instead decided what would help the team as a whole. He disciplined players or sat players, even dismissed players from the team who violated team or school rules, or who didn't understand that we play as a team, win or lose. He didn't run up scores on other teams. He didn't hesitate to play younger players and backups when we were in games against overmatched teams. Coach could break down the mistakes you had in the film room and on the field, but then lift you up with encouraging words later. And by these actions, he garnered the respect and the trust of his players, which in turn made his team successful, whether or not they won a championship. Of course, he did have his fair share of championships, including the '85 team I was lucky to play on. The lessons learned from Coach Christian still resonate with me today. I've carried that with me all these years. He inspired players to strive to do their best, to outplay, outwork, outsmart the opponents, to be good teammates, to be accountable, to play fair, to accept an outcome, learn from it, and move on with resolve to do better the next time, and to truly love the game of football. This is my favorite time of the year, right? ESU's already started their first game last night. High school's playing, college is all starting. NFL starts in a few weeks. I can't wait. Because of these impacts that Coach had on players, his teams were successful. I know it because I saw it, the teams I played on. I saw it for the next 30 plus years living here and watching games. After I returned to the area from college and law school, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to often see Coach, either at games or around town. We'd share some laughs, some stories. He'd kid me about the fact my son played at Stroudsburg. We'd catch up on our current lives. And I hope he had an idea of the impact he had on me and his fellow players, probably thousands of players that he coached through this program. But he was always very humble about it. To his son Eddie, to his daughter Patty, contemporaries of mine growing up, he was Dad, who took him to swim meets. To most others, he was simply Ed. But to me, he will always be Coach. When I look at his name on the stadium going forward, and I know that his records will never be broken, I know I was lucky enough to have played for not only a true gentleman, but a truly great coach. The dedication is well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker has been a friend and colleague to me since the early 1990s. We started as assistant principals together at JTL and kept each other sane for the next 3 years there. He first met Ed back in the early 70s, and they hit it off right away. He has served the district as a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, special ed supervisor, director of pupil services, and then as superintendent of Pleasant Valley. He's an avid, community-minded person, having served and still serving on many boards for charitable organizations. He established and still coordinates the East Stroudsburg Halls and Walls of Fame. He's an active member of our dedication committee tonight and instrumental in helping bring us together. Next week, he will be inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame here in Eastburg. Please welcome someone I am so proud to call a friend, Dr. Doug Arnold.
Well, I learned a couple of things here tonight. Rick, I wondered where that ball went that day in 1993. Yeah, but we won anyway. And John, I wondered what the hymn block was. Now, I didn't know it was something from church or whether it actually occurred on the field. Now I know. I am so proud to be here with the people that just spoke. What an incredible group of people. I spent 29 years here before I moved on, and I have been influenced. I thank God that I came to East Stroudsburg because it was the best place that I could ever be. I want to start off by saying that I want to thank you for joining us as we recognize the accomplishments of my dear friend, Ed Christian. As Mike said, I first met Ed when I came on staff in the 1970s, and we hit it off immediately. We discovered we shared a commitment to learn as much as we could to bring success to the players we were blessed to coach as we collectively pursued excellence. Ed quickly became my mentor, and over the years I learned as much from him about leadership than I did from anyone. When we won he gave everyone else the credit. When we lost, he took full responsibility. He had an indomitable spirit, which allowed him to persevere when things got tough. He was a great role model in that regard. He was the greatest advocate for his players and his coaches that they could ever ask for. He was constantly looking for ways to improve his program and would drive some of us administrators crazy, right, Jim? As he incessantly pushed for things to make it better. But wouldn't it be nice if all coaches advocated for ways to improve the experience of participation for players and coaches the way he did? He was a great assessor of talent, was able to get the best from others. He was tireless in his pursuit of excellence in all of his endeavors, and countless others benefited from us. Many are here tonight. Ed always went big when it came to getting things done, and I have a story on that. For example, he was my younger son's godfather. And when we needed a stocking for Christmas and we knew they had what we wanted at the mall, I called Ed, since he was usually there. Well, not at all a surprise, he was at the mall. So, yeah, right, Patty? I asked him if he could pick one up. He did, and in true Ed fashion, he got the biggest one they had. In fact, it was so big that my son fell asleep inside of it that Christmas. Ed knew who he was and was very comfortable being just that. He could take a joke better than anyone. He had a wonderful sense of humor. Often we would laugh until we cried as we mercilessly busted one another's chops. By the way, he had the greatest collection of anyone of idioms, metaphors, similes, and other figures of speech. He was absolutely hilarious. He had a million nicknames. He didn't care. Didn't bother him. And he could dish it out, too. To be sure, Ed changed my life in the most positive way. I will be forever indebted to him. He was my dear friend and mentor. He was the big brother I never had. He did things right. He was a great man, a humble man, a family man, and a Hall of Fame coach. He was one of a kind, and we shall not see his likes again at East Stroudsburg. I have so many stories I could tell, but my 3 minutes are up. The last time I saw Ed, as we reminisced, we laughed until we cried one final time and ended our visit with a hug and I love yous. I miss him terribly and will do so until the day I am no more. Many thanks to the school board for celebrating him with this well-deserved honor, and to you all for coming here tonight. God bless.
Our next speaker is a legend here at South and at his college, Syracuse University. He is a former NFL running back. He spent his NFL career with the Indianapolis Colts, with whom he won a Super Bowl. He attended Syracuse University, where he had an amazingly successful football career. In his career here at Eastburg with Coach Christian, he was Parade and Street Smith's All-American Grid Performer. He was also Pennsylvania Player of the Year as a junior, All-State selection in his final 2 seasons. He rushed for 2,541 yards and 34 touchdowns as a senior. He set the Pennsylvania state record after rushing 8,432 yards and totaling 9,513 yards, all-purpose yards during his career. Overall, he set 48 team records during his high school career and was a 3-time MVP. He's an amazing football star and an even more amazing human being. Please welcome James Munger.
First off, I would like to say it's an honor to be here to celebrate one of the greatest coaches in Pennsylvania. I'm going to share two stories with you. First, it's not really a story, it's a question for Patty and Eddie. Where did your dad get his hair done? When it rained, his hair did not move. Now, there's only one person I know that could afford to have that like that, and that's Jimmy Johnson. So I just don't know how that ever happened, but his hair never moved. It was amazing. Another story. Coach really didn't show emotion that much. He just didn't show emotion that much. And yes, he was always happy to win games and always eager to get into work the next morning, but he didn't really show emotion that much. That's how I felt. Until one day he came to my house when I was being recruited. And everybody knows who Taylor Swift is and how people go crazy about Taylor Swift. Well, John Robinson came to my house from USC, the legend. Ed had a bag, another bag, a helmet, a football. He was so excited, and I'm like, holy smokes. Look how Coach is acting right now. I'm laughing my butt off. I'm a junior. I'm just literally laughing. So I know he has stuff signed by him. So to top it off, during this time, Coach was trying to lose a little bit of weight for the camera. And my mom brought out some chocolate cake, and John Robinson took a piece of cake. He was on his way from leaving my house to go to the kickoff classic to play Penn State. And John took a piece of cake, and then my mom said to Ed, would you like a piece of cake? Oh, yes. And my mom remembered that he was dieting and said to him, isn't this going to mess your diet up? He ate that cake very quickly. But Ed, Ed dedicated 52 years at East Stroudsburg, 14 years as assistant and 38 as a head coach. That's unbelievable. Think about that. Take a second and actually really think about that. 52 years at one place. Now these days, the coaches want to bounce around and try to make money someplace else and keep moving up. That wasn't Ed at all. He wanted to be here, a Cavalier, and that's what he was. The impact he made at East Stroudsburg in the community is unreal. Flip it over. School teacher, a family man. Let's talk about his coaching staff. He was able to assemble the greatest coaches east of the Broadheads River, Creek. The staff that he assembled is unbelievable. I can hear Rick, I can hear Doc, I can hear Doug. They were like big kids arguing. That's all it was. A bunch of grown men arguing back and forth. But at the end of the day, they all got along and hugged each other and loved each other. And so I said to myself, if I could surround myself with good people like Ed did, I would be successful. And I did. I surrounded myself with good people. There's a lot of coaches out there that just want to coach for money. It wasn't about that with Ed. Ed loved East Stroudsburg. As a youngster, I'm off my cards now, just to let you know. As a youngster, living on North Colton Street, right across the street from Zachariah's Brick Company, I could hear the band play. When the band played, I was ready. I was ready to go to watch the game to play. My older brother played football here. Best friends with Tim Mack, that just spoke. I wanted to be like how these guys were. All these guys I've watched played football. It was amazing. I wanted to be like how they were. And I would love to say their names, but I would go on. But I'm just going to say a couple names. Kevin Fruck, Andy Eagleson, Pete Murray. It's just those guys, I remember so clearly going down and seeing Doc on the sidelines and seeing the purple and white and saying to myself, that's what I want to be. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be. I want to be the best coming out of here with my teammates. Back to my cards. So, the impact that Ed had is unbelievable. And it shows that former players came back to help coach throughout the many years, and all for one purpose, to make East Stroudsburg football the best football team in the area. And they did that. They made us the best team in the area. Lastly, I would like to say this. In order to be a Cavalier, growing up as a youngster, I had to go through the gauntlet. And the guys say, what's the gauntlet? The gauntlet was behaving at Dansbury Park. Yeah, I'm going to say this. Patty, Eddie, they were lifeguards. And Coach Rick stole my show. We're talking about Mr. Brown and his Speedo. Well, Coach, you were older. I was a young kid and saw that. That's traumatizing sometimes. I think about that, okay? I understand, but I was younger, though. I didn't know how to handle that. But I knew one thing. Patty Christian, she ruled with an iron fist. If you ran, you sat your butt down on the bench for 10, 15 minutes. You know, Eddie was cool. You got away with things with Eddie. You got away with things with Eddie. He was cool. He was the cool one, okay? But those little things taught me a lot. And, you know, I would say I wanted to play football, and after I would go swimming at Dansbury Park, I would go practice for ESYA. And, you know, Patty and Eddie Jr. would be like, you know, my dad's not going to put up with this. So I learned very quick how to be a Cavalier, what pride was and respect was. And I appreciate that very much from both of those two. Patty, Eddie, thank you for sharing your father with us. Appreciate it. Not only did you share your father with East Stroudsburg District, but you shared him with the whole community of East Stroudsburg. Without Ed Christian, there's no East Stroudsburg, point blank. I'm letting you know right now, Ed Christian put East Stroudsburg and Monroe County on the map. For the grandkids, Patty and Eddie Jr.'s grandkids, your grandfather was a hell of a man. I wish he was here right now because I would tell him, yeah, I played football, but the greatest thing he'll be happy about with me, I would say, my son just graduated from high school, and now he's at Duquesne University, Coach. Yeah, I struggled academic a little bit in the very beginning until I got the sources that I needed. But I would say, Coach, you know what, Coach? My son is going to Duquesne University, Coach, and he has 27 credits going into his freshman year. That would make Coach proud from me, and I'm very proud to say that to him. Whenever you have a great coach or a great person in life, there's always another special person involved, and that's Peggy. I don't know how successful Eddie would have been without Peggy. And God bless her soul, without Peggy, there's no Ed. And there's no Eddie Jr., and there's no Patty as well. So I would like to say thank you all for being here. And we're going to miss Ed. But his legacy and the pride that he installed in all of us at all different ages, we're all different ages here. It's crazy when I think about this. Dave Williamson, you know, Twilliger, Mac, Doc. I've heard Doc and Ed get into it so much that it just makes me laugh inside. And they're good friends. You know, Doug. Ed's Doug's mentor. Doug's my mentor. The circle of life. Being around good people, knowing good people, And yes, Rick was very intimidating with his voice. But he loved everybody. He got the best out of all of us athletes here today. He got the best out of all of us. This is where it all began at. And like we said, I'm proud to be a Cavalier. Purple and white, this is where it all began. Way before me and way after me. But with Ed's dedication, what he did for 52 years, he laid the foundation. The foundation will not move. There's no exceptions to the rule. If you break it, and you got to pay your dues. I missed practice one day. I had to carry a bag over my head for the whole practice. So yeah, there was no shortcuts. Even when you try to take a shortcut, he lined you back up and put you back where you need to be at. And I'm very grateful for that, because I don't take shortcuts. After that day, I learned very hard. I learned that day. But thank you all for attending this, and God bless Ed and Peggy.
Our next speaker is CEO at Workday and has been a member of the company's board of directors since 2018. Carl joined Workday in December of 2022, serving as co-CEO before becoming sole CEO in February of 2024. Carl has more than 35 years of experience leading and scaling successful technology companies. Prior to Workday, Carl was a general partner for more than 6 years at venture capital firm Sequoia Capital. Previously, Carl spent 14 years at MVWare Incorporated in various roles, including president, CEO, acting chief financial officer, and executive vice president. An Eastburg graduate of 1985, he earned 10 varsity letters, 4 in wrestling, 3 in baseball, and 3 in football. He served as captain for 3 years in wrestling, and then in football and baseball as a senior. He earned 5 Most Valuable Player awards and is enshrined in both the Football and Wrestling Eastburg Wall of Fame and the Athletic Hall of Fame. Please welcome Carl Essenbach.
Before I say anything, I want to say thank you and ask everyone here to join me in showing our appreciation for Mike and Coach Arnold and all the people who put on this evening. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I think, Timmy Mack, you said this. It's great to be home. Home here at East Stroudsburg High School. And for you, I want to say I'm sorry I didn't say East Stroudsburg South. But at the end of the day, we all are Cavaliers. On behalf of my amazing wife of 34 years, Anna, sitting there, my twin daughters, Emma and Mackenzie, my son couldn't join us because he's at school, along with former players, coaches, staff, administrators, teachers, family, and friends. It's so fitting that what brought us here tonight is Coach Ed Christian. This is my first time back in, I think, 20 years, and only my second time back in East Stroudsburg in 39 years. And I must admit, as the time was getting closer and closer, including today, when I had the opportunity to share with my family where we were raised, where I called home, I got more and more nervous. I don't get nervous a lot anymore, but I got more nervous. I was anxious as I came here today. And the reason for that is because we were all coming together to honor an incredible man. After hearing so many amazing testimonies this evening, I was sitting there thinking, I'm not sure if there's anything I can say that hasn't already been said. That is the power of Coach Ed Christian. He was an incredible man, and he had a massive impact on my life. And I know I don't have a lot of time this evening because I'm standing between all of you and hopefully a football game. I'm going to do my best. When you think of East Stroudsburg football, I think we could replace East and say Ed Stroudsburg football. Ed is East Stroudsburg football. He served 52 years as a coach and an assistant coach and stood on those sidelines for more than 500 games. Just stop and think about what I said. We're here celebrating a man who put 52 years of his life in dedication to something he was highly passionate about. And you heard the impact he had on many of the people in this room. Coach was just that. Coach was a coach, but he was much more. He was an incredible husband to Peggy. He was an incredible father, a grandfather, a friend, and someone all of us looked up to. And for me, I feel so blessed to have him grace my world. Coach, you did so much. You were a mentor. You were a coach, and you were a leader. And I can honestly say that you helped me go from being a young boy into being a young adult. Coach Christian, you and my father had a massive impact on my life. Since I'm supposed to keep this to 3 minutes, Mike, I struggled. I struggled for the last week trying to figure out what to say. And since a lot has been said about Coach as a coach, I'm going to talk about something slightly different. The greatest coaches are also the greatest leaders. And for me, I believe the greatest leadership style in the world is what I describe as servant leadership. And a lot of people talk about servant leadership. But when you break it down to its simplest form, what it means is to serve others. And I try to practice it every day in my profession and with my amazing family. I feel like I've been put on earth to serve. And when I look back almost 40 years ago, and I start to think about how did this help me develop into a servant leader, it very quickly came to me. It was through my engagement and being around Coach Christian. And I have lots of examples, but I'm only going to give two. Coach Christian was what I would describe as a blur the line leader. And you're probably all wondering, what the hell does blur the line leader mean? On one side of the line, we all knew Coach Christian was there for anyone that wanted to go to him. He had a shoulder you could go to, you could lean on, you could cry. You could talk about your professional situation in sports. You could go and talk about your high school career. You could go talk about your personal situation. You could go talk about your family. That shoulder was always there, and he never turned it away. On the other side, he was Coach Ed Christian. And you knew Coach Ed Christian was in control. And you knew at any given time, he could take you off that field. And you knew that you respected the hell out of that man. And what he did phenomenally well is he blurred that line between you being there for someone and being that coach. Let me give a very simple example. I was reflecting back on my junior year, and I was quarterback, and I had an amazing center, a guy named Craig Lowe, many of you know. And we had this crazy play where I'd walk up to the line of scrimmage, wouldn't tell anyone what we were doing, but I'd hit him in his in his butt, and he knows that's an automatic quarterback sneak. And in my mind, I knew we would get 10 yards every single time. And we did it a lot one game, and I looked over, and I saw a frown on his face. I saw his game playbook. You ever see this? The team just got, at this time, they just got the new purple pants, and they had a little stretch on him. He'd put the thing behind, remember this? He'd put it behind, and he'd start walking up and down the sideline. And when he went away from everyone, you knew you were in trouble. I came off the field, and he said, "Esh, you're not the tailback." And I said, "Coach, we're getting 10 yards a sneak." He said, "Esh, you're not the tailback." And under my breath, I said, "But I always wanted to be." He said, "You're not the tailback." And the story was over. I share that with you because I knew the next day, if I needed anything at all, I could go up to him and he would be there. That's leadership. The second thing that he did, which is truly amazing when you think about leadership, I believe there's 5 levels of leadership. And when you get to the 5th level, you do 2 things. Many people talk about wanting to be around or be part of leaders who are motivational. They motivate you. They drive you. They get the most out of you. And Coach was exactly that. But there's another piece of level 5 leadership that Coach had. And it's the inspirational leader. Inspirational leaders don't push you or drive you or motivate you. They pull you in. And level 5 leaders, like Coach was, knows when he needs to use motivation to push you and inspiration to pull you. And Coach just happened to do that over and over again to get the best out of his players. One quick example. I was a sophomore. I weighed 135 pounds, soaking wet with all my gear on. And I played on some teams with some incredible people that were juniors and seniors. Being aggressive, being driven, being motivated, I kept saying to Coach, "I need playing time." And he kept looking at me and said, "Keep playing." And this was at the time when sophomores didn't even have the same jerseys as the other varsity players because we didn't have the funds to support it. One day, Coach says, "Esh, come in." And I'm like, "Okay, this is it. I'm going to get some playing time." He said, "I have a task for you." I was so excited. He said, "You're going to be our punt returner." Folks, you don't want to play on varsity weighing 135 pounds and be the punt returner. He looked at me and he said, "I'm giving it to you because I trust that you can do it." He was motivating me. And in the next breath, he looked at me and he said, "Don't let me down." That's a leader who motivates you, who drives you to be your best. But he also, at the same time, inspired me because I did not want to let Coach down. Coach, you now sit in the press box. You literally have the greatest seat in the stadium. You're not tonight watching another football game. You're watching the true game of life and the impact you've had on so many people. I know you're at peace right now. while I know you and Patty spent 56 years on planet Earth by marriage, I tell you, Coach, that was a warm-up. Because now, you, Coach, get to spend your eternal life with Patty. And Coach, that never ends. Coach, I love you. I miss you. And I thank you. I so look forward to joining you in heaven. A heaven, Coach, that lets you be my coach forever. God bless you, Coach. God bless all of you. Peace, Coach. And thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you, Carl. We've heard many amazing stories and memories tonight in honor of our friend Ed Christian. And now it's my honor to introduce Ed's daughter, Patty, to share a few words with us.
Hi. This is really cool. I think it's a really amazing evening that all of us get to experience tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Cotrillo and Mr. Arnold, for helping to put all this together. And thank you so much for everybody that's offered to speak and come to be here tonight and take time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this. It's really pretty cool. My dad was literally and figuratively larger than life. For my entire life, I did not feel like Patty Christian. I felt like Ed Christian's daughter. And that was okay by me because I idolized him. He always had a way of really paying attention to people and to make them feel heard and make them feel noticed. He always took time to listen, not only to me and my brother, but also to random people that would stop him on the street. He would always look people in the eye and would give them a huge laugh. He always made everybody feel very special. My dad was always big on how to motivate others, like you've heard from so many people tonight. He focused on what he could say to try to make a difference. He focused on ideas that not only created good football players and good students, but would also create good humans. When he passed, I found a book in his office. It was full of quotes from athletes and coaches, and he used to pore over this book at home for hours. My dad would make all sorts of notes in the margins of the sayings that he really liked and what annual banquet or assembly he was going to use them for. He focused on character, discipline, goal setting, finding a passion, and having confidence. I found several poems and saying in my dad's office after he passed, and he often would cut out the sayings that he really liked and would tape them either to his desk or to his filing cabinet. And I remember for years and years as I was growing up reading them over and over again, and I thought I'd share a couple with you. One was from Newt Rockney, and it says, "Dear Lord, in the battle that goes on for life, I ask for a field that is fair, a chance that is equal with all in strife, the courage to do and dare. If I should win, let it be by the code, my faith and my honor held high. If I should lose, let me stand by the road and cheer as the winner rides by." Another one that I think really reminds me of my dad was one that was about positive mental attitude and its importance. And it says, "If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you've lost, for out in the world you'll find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or late, the man who wins is the one who thinks he can." My dad had passion. I swell with pride when I think about my dad and Cavalier football, and say what you might about him, but there was no denying that he loved his job and he loved Cavalier football. He had no hobbies or other interests. He only craved Cavalier football and constantly searched for how he could make it better. His dedication to making good people, not just good athletes, resonated with me for years. I took so much joy in the fact that he let girls participate, and he let soccer members and band members participate and join the football team, allowing anyone to participate that wanted to be a part of the program. He coached to every player, not just the stars, but to the third stringers as well, because he knew a team is not created by just one or two people, but it takes everyone. My dad had a way of encouraging players to want to do better, not by shaming them, but by building them up. He won the respect of those he coached because he treated others with respect. He was always willing to learn, feeling that even though he was a good coach, he could always learn something new to help the team. He voraciously read books, not only from famous football coaches, but coaches from other sports and self-help gurus and motivational speakers. He always knew he had room for growth and improvement. I'm sure over the years that his philosophies probably remained the same, but he found new ways to get his message to the masses. In his last couple of years, I remember helping him buy an old school lunchbox off of eBay that he wanted to use as a motivational tool for his players. And maybe some of the younger people remember that. While winning is great and is something to strive for, he knew that you can't win all the time, but that you can get better and learn. My dad would always say on the darkest days that the sun will come up tomorrow, and he was always right. And I told myself that on the day that he died. And you know what? It was still true. I thank my dad for teaching me what an amazing role model looks like, not only for me and for Edge, but for so many. And I thank him for showing us what having a passion can look like. And I thank him for all the ways that he made so many of us feel like we were important and like we were special and like we mattered. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Before we close, a couple of housekeeping things. For those of you who are speaking, the next part of our event will occur at halftime out on the field. So if you were a speaker and you happen to be staying around for the game, we invite you about 3 minutes, when the clock says about 3 minutes before halftime starts, to meet us at the far end of the field where the players come off of the field to go into the locker room. I'll be standing there, and as soon as the players are all off for halftime, all of the speakers, family members, we'd ask you to go immediately out to about the 50-yard line, and the PA announcer will read a script, and we will just announce publicly the dedication that we did today and the names of the people who spoke. And you're welcome to wave to the crowd as your name is called. So again, if you're a speaker and you were able to join us, family members, look at the clock when there's about 3 minutes left before halftime. Meet me at the far end of the field, and then we'll escort you on to the field. Also, yes, yeah, we also wanted to say a big thank you to our committee members, Wes English, if you're here, Darrell Miller, all working hard. Also, the East Stroudsburg Central Office Administration, my fellow board members who helped us get this through and honor Ed tonight. Eternally grateful to everybody who worked together, East Stroudsburg Maintenance, East Stroudsburg Police Department, everyone who worked hard. Here at South, our friends, Amy Polmounter, Principal Matriolo, put all this together today, all the things you see here just to get us rolling. So, big thank you to everybody. One other housekeeping, we also have tickets for the game. So when you're leaving at the doors, if you are going to the game, please grab a ticket so you can walk right into the game. And then, the other thing we can't forget, we are all welcome to join us down at Pub 447, which for you old timers, the old McDorf's over there on 447. And there will be a pavilion reserved so that people can continue to share the memories and the stories and the good times. We also thank Carl Essenbach, who has run a tab for us there too. So you're welcome to join down there and have a few drinks, toast Ed, and continue the happy stories and memories. So again, that's at Pub 447. So again, we have halftime and then Pub 447. So in final and in closing here tonight, found a quote maybe just to end us. And I just have to say, when I was getting everyone's information, all the amazing speakers who were here tonight, and reading their emails, it was just as you heard tonight. I can't even describe the emotion that it was to hear the love and the inspiration from people who have gone on to do very successful things with their lives, but the thing they share in common is inspiration, love, concern that they felt from Ed. So really a great evening, and I thank all of our speakers, especially those who traveled so far to be here with us. So let's reflect on this last quote. There are those whose lives affect all others around them, quietly touching one heart, who in turn touches another, reaching out to the ends of the earth, further than they would ever know. Ed Christian Jr.'s life has touched those around him, and his influence will continue to live on in the actions of those he touched. And isn't that truly the sign of a great man? We thank you for being here together. God bless and safe travels to everyone.